Hello YouTube, this is Bowtied Media, and today I have a review of F.O.O.L's Mercenary EP. And F.O.O.L, or Fuck Our Ordinary Lives, is back for his second project of 2020. His Revenger EP had come out back in April of 2020, and now this is his second project, Mercenary. If I had to describe F.O.O.L's sound design and production style in one word, it would be cyberpunk. Whether it's electro house, synthwave, or mid-tempo, F.O.O.L always has this way of making you feel like you're in a futuristic dystopian world, and this EP is no exception. A lot of his tracks have a generally dark and deep driving force to them, and generally have a pretty heavy drop. But what makes this EP or project stand out more to his other projects is that 3 of the 4 tracks have production features where he calls on someone else to do a collaboration. And while I haven't listened to any of the 3 that helped him out for the first 3 songs, I can definitely tell their influences in each individual track. And that is pretty much a testament to the fact that F.O.O.L has a pretty clear-cut style and where he wants to go with stuff. And so when you hear something that's a little more deeper than normal, which you would from F.O.O.L, you understand that that person that's his contribution or their contribution they made to the track. F.O.O.L's Mercenary EP is 4 songs and 14 minutes long. First up on the track list is Dystopia 2077. And if you couldn't tell by the album art and the first 30 seconds of the song, you can kind of tell where this project is going narratively. And that is this dystopian narrative where a group of people are trying to overthrow some robots or something or another. It's pretty basic cyberpunk feel. Speaking of cyberpunk, if 2077 didn't give it away, there is a lot of influence from both the game Cyberpunk 2077 and movies like Blade Runner in the sound design and narrative that F.O.O.L was portraying. The song was pretty good and especially shined in the last drop, and I cannot forget to mention that sick melodic part in the middle of the track between the 2 drops. It's got a good little groove that's going for it throughout the entire runtime of the track and keeps the energy going throughout the whole 3.5 minutes. It is a pretty hard-hitting electro house style track, and while it's not my absolute favorite genre or style, this is a pretty solid track. Next up is Hysteria with Scum, and it is my favorite song from the EP, as the trio of producers here did such a good job with the heavy, hard-hitting mid-tempo track. F.O.O.L really nails these melodic mid-sections of all the tracks, and especially this one here on Hysteria. It's got this Arabic tone and vibe to it that is layered on top of some light, subtle synths that really add the futuristic vibe to it. And while I'm a little upset that this is a copy-pasted drop from the first to second for the most part, this is, I would say, the most well-produced sound design track that F.O.O.L has put out in 2020 so far. Next up is the title track Mercenary with Power Glove, and this is easily the deepest thing that F.O.O.L has put out in 2020, and that's saying something because F.O.O.L normally has that dark, deep tone that I talked about, and that is largely in part to the production assistant from Power Glove. This just sounds like some classic F.O.O.L, and F.O.O.L at his best in this section, and bringing in Power Glove was a great assistance to the track. And I really love the parts where they kind of tone back the chaos of the track and keep that darker, ominous tone to it, where it almost feels like a monster is watching you throughout the entire track, or especially in those mid-sections. It's some pretty clever sound design, and I think it worked really well. My only beef with this track is that it feels really repetitive. I listen to it, and I recognize that it's really not that repetitive, but the more I has a general tone for it, the more I feel like it is. I don't know if that makes sense. It feels like it is, even though I know it's not. It's just this weird dichotomy of inner feeling, I guess. And finally, F.O.O.L drops any production assistance and goes solo for his final track, She. I mean, this track is just pure synthwave, and F.O.O.L really lands the plane both narratively and sonically with the entire sound design from the EP with this track. Sonically, a synthwave track is the best way to end this EP, in the sense that it's kind of got this lighter atmosphere to it that is a good counter to a lot of the heavier stuff in the first 3 tracks. Narratively, the quick line that talks about, I don't know as much about human relationships as I thought I did, is a good way to kind of nail in and bookend that idea of it's some dystopian future where it's humans versus robots, and the robots come to this final conclusion that says that, I don't know what humans are like, it's different, it's this kind of, yeah, you kind of know what I'm talking about. It's a kind of classic dystopian trope. While there wasn't a really overt expression of the storyline here, it is pretty obvious that is this dystopian future, like I talked about, the humans versus robots, and F.O.O.L really lets you kind of fill in the gaps about how you get from the beginning to end, and does a good job of leading you in and making a nice bookend conclusion, and it's for you to really put in the gaps with however you feel necessary. As a side note, for all you Monster Cat fans out there, narratively, this is very, very similar to Justin O's Welcome to the City of Oz. And while F.O.O.L only has 4 tracks and an EP to deal with here, Justin O had 11 tracks and a whole album. And they kind of follow the same idea of that human versus robot and the relationship of mankind and what makes humans unique. And it's a really cool idea to explore, and obviously I think Justin O did a lot better with his album, but that's because he had more real estate to work with. And while F.O.O.L had only 4 tracks, he did a pretty good job of laying a storyline and a foundation for a narrative out. Personally, this is my favorite F.O.O.L project, and I would say few songs that I've ever heard him produce. And for that reason, F.O.O.L's Mercenary EP is going to get a 7. But thank you guys so much for watching. I have been Bowtied Media. If you have any comments or concerns, I don't know why you would have concerns. Leave in the comment section below. That's what they're for. Leave a like if you liked, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Let me know what other things you want me to review. I'm going back and looking at a whole bunch of old stuff from 2020 and either making videos or putting them on Album of the Year for my ratings as we're getting to the end of 2020. So I will see you guys later.